Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Fair Life once again on Monday evening. Wow, it has been an interesting week for me. I hope it has for you as well. Uh, Fair Life is not always fair, but it's often not boring. Uh, Last week, I was doing recording a podcast with my old bandmate Mark Gunn, and right afterwards my computer went there. I mean, it just some Windows 11 updates and some issues, and it was a perfect storm of problems where I couldn't boot my system and there was no way around it. I It's a problem that's been going around lately the last several days, but I was in that small minority where I nothing I could do could fix it. And they'll probably come up with a way to fix it in a few weeks, but I couldn't wait that long. So I spent the last several days reinstalling Windows from scratch. Again, I just built a new computer a few months ago, so I was well acquainted with how to do it. But that's what we did. Yeah. And so hello everyone. Yeah, Janine and Jan and Kurt and Damaris and Greg and Drew and Sarit and uh no, I know. I'm still on Facebook, Janine. She's asking, did I quit doing Facebook? It should be up on Facebook. Let me know if everybody can hear me, uh, and if everything works because I set up everything over again, and OBS and the streaming setup and everything. So no pressure, but yeah, luckily I had to get it all working, but I think we're okay. I was able to back up a lot of things, including a lot of the settings, but I okay, Kurt, thanks. Excellent. Good to know that you hear me and everything's going okay. Everything looks okay, but you never can tell. And Drew, good to know. Excellent. Um, and yeah, okay, good. Well, yeah, that was. I think I've got everything working. As you can see, the chat, the the chat on the stream is working okay. That's an interesting process I have to go through. I think the only thing I don't have working for the stream is the laser pointer, the map, which I know. So I don't think we're going to have it this week. Next week I should have it back. I guess the good news is not having it for a week will allow us to see how much we miss it. So I'm sorry to disappoint your cats this week, but no laser pointer. Everything else should be fine though. And since you can hear me okay, I think we're okay. And I'm sorry, Kurt. I know it's horribly upsetting, and I tried. I almost got it up. I got everything working a little bit with the laser pointer. It almost works, but oh, again, Greg is asking what. There's this there's a little laser pointer I have for when I show the Faire map that it's just a little red dot so that I can move it around and reference what fairs are coming up in order on the map. But yes, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that this week. That's something I started just uh, yeah, a month or so ago, month and a half ago, something like that. It was soon after I built the computer. It was something I added, and I think that's why I didn't back it up. I backed up the settings, but I didn't back up all the new plugins, and that's the only one I didn't have transferred over. So I think that was the problem. So I need to reinstall it. And I tried before the show, but couldn't quite get there. But that's the way it works sometimes. You know how it goes. But yeah, so Windows 11 problems aside, I computer seems to be doing fine otherwise. I think it was just one of those things and probably won't happen again. But that's just have to be prepared, and that's what I always say. Make sure you have good backups. So for those of you that don't have a external hard drive or Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever that you use for backing up, make sure you do because you never know. Always fun, never boring. So anyway, yes, one thing I noticed in the news over the last week was Castle Guédelon in France. It was mentioned on several sites. Maybe some of you saw it, maybe some of you didn't. But mainly in the reference to Notre Dame and the influence there. But I'll get to all of that. But I looked and researched it, and it was quite fascinating. So for those of you that didn't catch the news article or are not familiar with Castle Guedelon in France, uh, yeah, I've got a bit of a treat for you. This is actually really cool. So yes, I guess it all started, and I'm just going to go through the quick story here with see, yeah, it all started with Michael Gaillot, and I'm just going to completely destroy some of this French, so just forgive me now, but I'm trying. Michael Gaillot had a hobby, and his hobby was buying and restoring old castles. So yeah, I mean, he liked to flip houses, but he liked to go old school with it. He in 1979 he bought a chateau, the Chateau de Saint Fargeau. Uh, I get it now, Greg. Sorry, I totally missed that. Sometimes comedy is about taking people literally and totally missing the joke too. So, and I'm great at that. Uh, but yeah, Saint Fargeau is an area, about somewhere around 100 miles outside of Paris in central France, and it it has this 17th century Renaissance chateau that he bought that was in disrepair. And after the repair process, I mean, they started going it and evaluating it. The the people he had working for him discovered that there was also a medieval castle on the site before that had uh, burned down, but a lot of the original stone walls were inside the brick walls of the castle. Here, let me actually show you a little bit of the. Yeah, here we go. Here's the Chateau de Saint Fargeau, and inside that brick, there was stone walls still existing from the original castle. And the whole idea was presented. Wouldn't it be interesting to, instead of restoring the 17th century chateau, ignoring that and restoring the 15th century castle? But of course, the idea of destroying one part of history to restore another didn't set well. So they thought, hey, why don't we just reconstruct the old castle somewhere else? He had all the contacts, he put them together, and got some funding from France and the EU and everything. So in mid 1997, they did a groundbreaking, and yeah, on a site about I don't know 15 miles or so away from there in Guédelon, and it had everything you would need if you wanted to build a castle. Because if you want to build a castle, you want to have all of the uh, components of the castle there on site, so you don't have to ship them from abroad. Because especially in medieval times, not only was it laborious, time consuming, but it was expensive. So everything on site, and they did that. They had an abandoned stone quarry, sandstone, a large forest around there for the wood, a nearby pond for all the water they might need for the mortar and iron, and of course sand and earth there available for everything. So it was a perfect site. They got it, started it. Um, right. Okay. Drew's kind of remembering this. Yeah. Um, but they decided to do something really, really, really cool. They didn't just restore the castle. Uh, they built it exactly how they would have built it, um, in medieval times. So yeah, I mean, if they got a stone ready to be transported to the castle site, they put it on a cart pulled by a horse and took it there. That's how they did it. Everything except for a few safety protocols, just to be safe, were done using the old style. A lot of research had been put into that, and yeah, don't worry, Drew. I'll talk about that in a little bit too, and let y'all know where you can see it, because I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, it is. It was they just rebuilt it, and all medieval buildings nearby to support it. You know, for the blacksmith, for the masons, for the woodsmen that they hired to cut down wood, and it was just it, they even built a medieval mill based on the few examples they had, and it was all a challenge, and some of it had to be almost reverse engineered, relearned how to do it, uh, because a lot of the information on how to do that were from academics, not from the actual people. So I mean, they hired carpenters and they hired masons and had all of these people who trained in these arts. And here, let's jump in. Here's a picture of the site in 2000, just a few years after they broke ground. Oh, here, sorry, here you go. You can see. I'm gonna go full uh, screen on this because that's just too cool. Here you go. But yeah, I mean, you can see how that it, they started with the stone. All of that is from local stuff. I mean, they yeah, they did a really good job. It is quite phenomenal. So good, in fact, that some of it is, um, I mean, they're financing it from tourism. People were fascinated by the whole process, so they get about 300,000 tourists every year, and with an income of about 3 million euros, and that helps pay for this whole process. And they've come a long way. Let's jump ahead a little bit here. Yeah, this jumps us up to like about 2013. So over a decade later, you can see how much uh, how much has gone into it. Let's check that from a different angle because it is really cool. Here you go. There's a better angle for you. You can kind of see where all of that is. I mean, it's just wow. And this was all built um, in the old style, and it was great. Yeah, you know, Kurt, I've always thought that if I was to do a Ren Fair, that's how I would do it. Yeah, you know, I would I'd get all the grant money I could and try to get that going and build the castle and have it be part of the whole process, watching it being built. Um, but yeah, I mean, you know, what if? That's always a part of Ren Fair. So yes, I mean, it's just gorgeous. Let's jump to another. Yeah, here's another one, another good shot. You kind of see the different towers really starting to come together uh, around the building and around the site. It's just great. So much work. Then okay, here's the one from inside. That's just yeah, see a little bit of the work inside and how really clean and well done it is. We're so used to castles that you know are hundreds and hundreds of years old that are not in the best shape. This is pristine. This is more how it would have looked to an extent. Um, yes, and you're totally right, Janine. That they did learn a lot. I mean, it was they brought the academics in, and then they brought the actual skilled laborers in and artists, and everybody worked together to make it to do it that way, to recreate that method, and it has become a blueprint uh, for how it was done. It's brilliant, just totally brilliant. But yeah, yeah. So here we go. Oh, here's a good shot of the treadmill winch. It look they're like a dual set of mouse wheels, except people would walk in there to turn them, and that was the crane to hoist the heavy stone or heavy whatever up to the top. Uh, quite amazing, quite amazing stuff. But yeah, close up shot of that. And here is from 2020, just a couple of years ago, where they were. They finally completed the top of one of the towers, but it's still a work in progress. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Castles in Europe, there are tons of them, tons, tons of them. But Ireland alone, I mean, geez. But it's yeah. I mean, this is a rarity because it's a traditional medieval castle that's brand new. uh, really awesome. I can't even imagine the movies and television shows that are going to be filmed here once this is complete. I mean, I'm sure they've already got a waiting list. but it is nuts. They have, for those curious, they have a team of 70 people working on it, 40 workers, some experts, managers. I mean, it is crazy. Uh, oh, there's a lot of information online where you can find out more about it. But yeah, Drew was talking about this earlier. Well, actually, there were two documentaries about it. One that was um, a while ago that was okay, but there was one in 2014 that was great and it was brilliant. I think that's the one Drew was talking about because let's see, it was called Secrets of the Castle from 2014, and it is just they go. It's 4 episodes, five episodes, 5 hours of cool stuff. So yeah, definitely check that out. You can watch that for free on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have Amazon Prime, uh, yeah, definitely take a look at that. And maybe on YouTube as well, something worth checking. So, yeah, definitely. Now, Damaris, you would have really like that uh, that documentary series because they talk about the castle, the building of it, all of the details. I mean, how it looked and the misconceptions that we have about what castles were like back in the day and how it wasn't like that at all. But also the clothes, cottages, the floors, the sewing. I mean, they hire one guy just for making rope. They make their own rope there at this castle, and they show how it's done. Uh, yes, yes, it is. It's really amazing, amazing stuff. So I really recommend seeing that Secrets of the Castle. Now, the reason this was in the news lately, this last week, was because a lot of the carpenters and stonemasons and all that who were trained here at Gedalon were have been hired by the companies bidding for the work on Notre Dame Cathedral. Probably remember uh, in 2019 the burning of Notre Dame. I mean, that was pretty huge, uh, a pretty huge deal. And with that, yeah, it at the time I even remember right after it happened, these experts were coming on saying, "Oh, yeah, they'll never be able to find wood like that again. Nobody knows how to do that. They're not going to be able to recreate it." Um, okay, so you have seen it, Damaris. Okay, excellent, excellent. Yes, they were making their own paint, and they love talking about the difference between dye and paint. It was, I'm sure your inner nerd leapt for joy. Yeah, no, I mean it's so all of this training in Gedalon is going to be very useful in Notre Dame Cathedral. Now, Notre Dame, they, of course, that was insanely advanced even at that time, but yeah, as soon as it happened at Gedalon, they all said, "Oh, yeah, we could totally do that." They had no doubts that it could easily be done. Um, uh, their in their wheelhouse and with their knowledge. So yeah, not a problem, and that's always really good news. So it's kind of interesting to see how that exploration of history has transformed uh, the whole restoration process a great deal and really moved it forward. And if it hadn't been for Gedalon, I don't know, it would have really made preparing Notre Dame a lot more difficult. So kind of interesting. So here, yeah, here's a picture from the series Secrets of the Castle from 2015. We have two archaeologists and an historian who go in and they don't just talk about it. They go in and they're taught by the stonemasons how to cut the stone, how to do it, how to lay the stone in the castle, and how to cut the wood. I mean, they all three of them cut down a tree with a traditional axe. I mean, they go through the whole process. It's quite good. I highly recommend it. And like I said, you can see Secrets of the Castle with Ruth, Peter, and Tom on Amazon Prime Video for free. So check that out and take a look for it on YouTube. They have some bits on YouTube as well, but it is quite fascinating with great video of the area and all the different parts of the castle. A lot more than I could show you on this, but definitely worth it. So I highly recommend it. If you're interested in castles, and if you're here watching me now, I would be shocked if most of you weren't, or any of you weren't interested in castles. Uh, I also recommend the book, The Pillars of the Earth, from 1989 by Ken Follett. It is a historical fiction book about the building of a cathedral in the fictional town of Kingsbridge, England, medieval times. It's a great story. He's Ken Follett's normally known for, well, spy thrillers, but because of that, it's really a riveting story about building a cathedral. So it's sort of like a Name of the Rose sort of thing, but all about uh, medieval construction in a way. It's really fascinating. So I recommend that. It's a good read, good audiobook for the road too if you're on the road. But definitely check out Secrets of the Castle because I know you will thank me. I'm not worried about that. Uh, and oh, Pillars of the Earth was also made into a miniseries back in 2010. So that's kind of worth watching too with Eddie Redmayne and Haley Atwell. So if you want to see Newt Scamander and Agent Carter at the Renaissance Fair, this is right before they kind of hit it big and got hugely famous. So yeah, they, God, they're young in that, but it is it's a really good miniseries too if you want to check that out. Pillars of the Earth. So yes, okay. Woohoo! All right, let's jump over and do the fair map before it gets too late because yeah, this is I'm pushing time as always. So here we go. Unfortunately, um uh no no laser pointer, but okay, here we go. It's at least it's there, so I try. Okay, now in the upper right hand corner that I would normally point a laser pointer at. God, this is painful. Um, yeah, the New York Renaissance Fair, and it's their first weekend. 7 more weekends to go in Tuxedo Park, New York. And no, not doing a theme. I totally respect that. I totally respect not doing a theme because I think sometimes there's that feeling that a fair has to really push themes and do it every weekend. And sometimes theme weekends, you know, some weekends can't we just have the Renaissance as a theme? I mean, really? So yeah, I think that works out. So the New York Renaissance Fair starting up. Then continuing on in Pennsylvania to the southwest of that, Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair and the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival are going on again for their second weekends. 10 more weekends left of Pennsylvania, and they're doing the Pirate Invasion Week. That's in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival has 5 more weekends, and they're doing Celtic Weekend. So whether you like pirates or whether you like Celtic, I mean, you got options here. So good for them for mixing it up. Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival is in West Newton, Pennsylvania. Now, going down south of that in Maryland, we have the Maryland Renaissance Festival is starting up. 9 more weekends of that, and they're starting it off with Children's Weekend. Now, interestingly enough, I think that's a really interesting idea. For the first weekend, they just call it Children's Weekend, and kids get in free. Of course, the website's a little tough to decipher. It's on one line it says kids 15 and under, and then the next line they say children under 15. So if you're 14 or younger, you're good. If you're 15, I'm not sure, but generally kids free. So it's a cool idea for a first weekend. Then going over to Indiana, South Bend, Indiana, the Michiana Renaissance Festival. It's 10th year and it's only 1 weekend. That's over in northern Indiana and so close to Michigan, they just call it the Michiana Renaissance Festival. And it's really cool. 1 weekend, a simple 1 weekend fair, a lot of fun. The website, wow. I mean, it's 10th year, but the website looked like it was its 20th and that was made a while ago. The animated GIFs were a giveaway, but it was kind of charming because of that. It was subtle, but it kind of had a retro vibe to it, which kind of works for a Ren Fair. I don't know. I've heard that web pages might a retro look is kind of popular sometimes or getting there. So I don't know. Maybe that's going to be a thing. We shall see. Okay, then we have going up to Michigan, the Michigan Renaissance Festival. 6 more weekends there, and their theme is the Highland Fling. That's in Holly, Michigan. And then going over to Kenosha, Wisconsin is the Bristol Renaissance Fair. That's been going on for a while. 2 more weekends left, and they are done with themes for the rest of the season. Then we go over to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival that has 6 more weekends. That's in Shakopee, Minnesota, and their theme, as well as Michigan, is the Highland Fling. So apparently that's definitely a thing this weekend. Then you'll notice going over to Nebraska, that's right, the Midwest Pirate Fest. Get a Pirate Fest, one weekend only in Papillon, Papillon, Nebraska. Now, that's the French pronunciation. I just talked about Guédelon, so I don't know. They might call it Papillion, Nebraska, for all I know. Americans can do that. So I don't know. But it's either Papillion, Nebraska, or Papillon, Nebraska. I guess it depends on how French you are. Either way, it means butterfly. So one weekend only there. And then going all the way out to Utah, we have the Utah Renaissance Fair in Leahy, Utah. That's just Friday and Saturday. Uh, so just one weekend only. So something to check out. And then you'll notice a little star up at the top, just hiding out over there. And it is the Calgary Medieval Fair and Artisan Market. That's Friday through Sunday, so a 3-day weekend in Calgary, Alberta. So if you're up there in the Canadian area, it's something to check out. Okay, so let's alrighty. We got through the good stuff with the different fairs. You'll notice that a lot of the fairs were up north, and that's even at the end of August, and that's going to continue into September. Gradually, as September goes on, we're going to start seeing more and more fairs in the south. But by the end of September, early October, that's when the southern fairs start catching up because it's no longer as hot down here. So yes, always something good to go. All right, let's jump into. I was thinking about what a good 7 reasons was for this week, and after Get Along, it just seemed like a good idea to do 7 reasons why everyone's so fascinated with castles. I mean, we are. I dare you to challenge that. Aren't you all? Don't you all just love castles? I mean, really? Aren't castles just this whole mystical aspect to you? So that's what I did with 7 reasons. Yes, and David is right that the Sherwood Celtic Festival is coming up. I'll be doing that after Labor Day weekend. First, I'll go to Dragon Con, and then I'll come back and immediately go and do the Celtic Festival the second weekend of September. So there will be some Celtic Festival. It's a 1 weekend event. It's a little off time. Normally you'd go a little later, but no, it actually works out. I think it just kind of hits that dip where it's not quite as hot. So, oh, 4 castles in Scotland. Okay, is it just me, or does that just sound like a good book title? 4 castles in Scotland. I mean, that could be a romance novel. That could be just a situational comedy. I mean, it just sounds like something 4 castles in Scotland. Like it flows. So definitely a good book title. Throwing that out. Yeah. Okay. Then take it for what it's worth. Okay. So, for the 7th reason that we are all fascinated by castles, and it is the truth, we don't have them here. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, the oldest stuff we have here is usually from, I mean, you normally kind of get a colonial Williamsburg, maybe, Philadelphia, that kind of thing, where the oldest stuff is a few hundred years, and that's it. Having stuff that's 1,000 years old boggles our American minds. We're just not used to it. We didn't grow up with it. We've never been surrounded with it, and having that novelty, that a rarity, is quite fascinating. Actually, yes, watch that series, Secrets of the Castle, because they talk a lot about that, Janine, and it is just really, they do go a lot into that, and they were a lot more comfortable than people think. I didn't know that you never saw the stone. I mean, inside they plastered the wall, very white plaster, so that it was very well lit. The light that came in through the windows reflected off all of the white plaster in the room and really brightened it up. Then they painted the walls with designs, and it was really quite impressive how comfy and nice looking it was. And you're right. You're right. European. I mean, there have that's true. They have. There's such a fascination with castles. People have tried to build them and built them in the United States because of that fascination. I think that's kind of it because they want to have that. Um, I mean, the cloisters alone in New York is a good example. Well, sure. I mean, yeah, if you want to, um, uh, if you want to go, if you want to go pre-Cambrian, I mean, go for it. I mean, that's your business. But whatever works for you. All right. So number 6, decadence. I mean, castles are symbols of just well of wealth, of power, of strength. I mean, it's a huge deal. That whole vision of being fed grapes while you lounge on a on a comfortable couch. I mean, is the whole view, and it's normally put together with a castle. I mean, that's where you've got so much money to spare, you can afford to live in a castle. Um, it is really nuts, but I think that whole concept of decadence can be appealing. And okay, now I'm gonna go all nerd here for a second, but number 5, time travel. I mean, it's like the closest thing to time travel we have. You go back to this era when you're in a castle, and it feels like that's kind of how it was back in the day. That you're walking through these same halls that people 1,000+ years ago walked through. I mean, this is what it felt like. It really feels like you're transported there in a way that many other sites, especially archaeological ones, um, have an element that you feel removed from the site to an extent. But castles, it makes you feel like you're more of a part of it. I think that's part of the fascination. All right, number 4, and that's the appreciation of rare skill. I mean, think about the craftsmen and think about the craftsmen and the artists, all of the people that really just put that together, spent tons of time. It was a totally different time. I mean, planned out so much in advance. Um, so yeah, it was really a different time, and you can appreciate all the skill that went into it. Brings us to number 3, stability and permanence. I mean, it was a different time. We looked at that as well back then. I mean, they planned their meals days in advance. I mean, sometimes months or years. I mean, it depended on what's stuff they grew. I mean, what animals they purchased and bred. I mean, as to what they would eat. I mean, it was you really had to plan for everything because nothing was quick. There was no fast food. So yes, it was a different time. Um, well, yeah, I think any time difference is a reasonable range for time travel. So yes, then we have number 2, and that's romanticize the past. And yeah, I mean, it is really it really is just a huge aspect where easy to romanticize the past. I mean, that's what the whole 19th century was about, really. I mean, pre-Raphaelite art, music. I mean, it was all about romanticizing what the medieval and Renaissance time period were. I mean, Ren fairs do it too, and I think we do it with castles as well. Uh, it was not necessarily a good place to live. We would not be happy there. I don't. I think in general, it would be fascinating for a couple of days, maybe, but it was not exactly great for us. I think people would tend to get bored in a couple of days quite easily. So it you really have to have a different mindset for it. But we romanticize it, and I think that's led to that fascination. And number 1, legends and lore. I mean, castles are such a huge part of all of that. Whether you're talking about Camelot or Count Dracula's castle, uh, castles from Game of Thrones, or Hal's Moving Castle, going the fantasy route. Um, Going Disney and having Cinderella's or Sleeping Beauty's castle, or that's at Disney, but also at Universal we have Hogwarts castle. So, I mean, you this whole it's such a huge ingrained part of our fantasy world of legends, lore, and old stories, fairy tales, everything that well, scribe is always a fun job, so yeah, you got to have those options. Always got to have the options, definitely. Try. But yeah, yeah, I think so. Those are my 7 reasons uh, that castles are a fascinating our day and area have. I remember when the first time I went to Ireland, one of the things I saw that was so interesting was well, the Rock of Cashel, and while everybody was looking at the huge stone structure and looking at all of that and the hill it was on and looking out at the plains of Tipperary, I was doing the same. But I noticed 2 girls eating lunch. I think they worked at the gift shop or something, and they just went out and sat down on the grass and started eating lunch. And I just was like, this is normal to them. And it kind of hit me that for them, all of this crazy beauty and history and everything that we were so entranced by, for them was a normal everyday event, something that was commonplace. And I realized how different our mindsets were. So yeah, everything is fast, and I'm sure to them, some place in America or Canada would be like, "Oh my God, this is so wild and different," and they would be fascinated as well. But it's all relative. It really is. As as our tour guide on that Ireland trip said, every time we looked out and said, "Oh, look at that castle," I was like, "Yeah, it's just an ABC, another bloody castle." Is how he phrased it. So yeah, always interesting. But anyway, glad my computer is back up and working, and I think the streaming is good. I'll make sure I get that laser pointer taken care of for next week, so no worries. But if that's the only thing that suffered, I think it was a victory, so I'm pretty happy. And definitely, everyone check out that documentary series. Again, Secrets of the Castle. Highly recommend it. And yeah, also Pillars of the Earth is a good book or audiobook, and also the miniseries, Pillars of the Earth. Check out and enjoy. So again, enjoy, study, learn, and have a fair life. Take care. Bye.